Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the whole House will want to express their condolences to the families of those rail workers who were hit and killed by a train this morning in Port Talbot. There will obviously have to be a full investigation into this, but our thoughts must be with the families and friends of those that were killed and injured. I'd like to join the Prime Minister and others in congratulating Reverend Rose Hudson-Wilkin on becoming Bishop of Dover. She's been absolutely brilliant as chaplain to the House, but she was also brilliant when she was a parish priest in Hackney. She shows such empathy for people. I think we must wish her well on her way, and I'm sure she's going to do really well. I'd also like to congratulate the England women's football team on their successful journey as far as the semi-finals, and wish the men's cricket team well in their current match against New Zealand, which I understand is 134-1 at the moment. And Pride this weekend is a source of great enjoyment, and you think of all those that suffered in the past to try and defeat homophobia in our society, and will be enjoying the joy of the streets of London this weekend. Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor says that a no-deal Brexit would cause a £90 billion hit to the public finances. The former Foreign Secretary says concerns about no deal are confected hysteria. Who does the Prime Minister think is right?
What can I say to... First of all, can I say to the right honourable gentleman, I share the remarks that he made in relation to the incident in Port Talbot. Secondly, can I say to him the figure that was quoted was actually publicly available at the time. It was a figure that appeared in the government's economic analysis in relation to these matters. But can I also say to the right honourable gentleman that if he is worried about no deal, I have done everything I can to ensure we leave the EU with a deal. I can look workers in the eye and tell them I voted to leave with a deal that protects jobs. The right honourable gentleman can't do that because he's voted 3 times for no deal.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister should be aware that her deal was rejected 3 times by the House. And when something's been rejected 3 times, you might think about an alternative method of doing things. A confidential Cabinet note apparently says that the government is not properly prepared for no deal, and NHS trusts have warned that it will pose a major risk to NHS services. And, Mr. Speaker, Make UK, representing UK manufacturers, recently said there's a direct link between politicians talking up the prospect of no deal and British firms losing customers overseas and people losing their jobs. Are Make UK guilty of confected hysteria, or is it speaking up for its members and its very legitimate concerns right across the manufacturing sector?
I think what business organisation after business organisation showed earlier this year is that they wanted people in this House of Commons to vote for the deal so we could leave with a deal.
Corbyn!
Well, Mr. Speaker, she couldn't get her own party to support it. The opposition parties didn't support it either. And, Mr. Speaker, as the danger of no deal ever looms, JLR, Ford, Nissan, Toyota and BMW have all said that no deal would threaten their continued presence in the UK. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders have said leaving the EU without a deal would trigger the most seismic shift in trading conditions ever experienced. And, Mr. Speaker, within the last week, Vauxhall has said that their decision to produce the new Astra at Ellesmere Port will be conditional on the final terms of the UK's exit from the EU. So what can the Prime Minister say to workers at Ellesmere Port and elsewhere? And
Order! The right honourable gentleman will not be shouted down under any circumstances whatsoever. If you're shouting, stop it. You can do better, and if you can't, it's about time you did. Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to say to the Prime Minister, why doesn't she speak to both of the candidates to succeed her and just remind them that as they trade insults over no deal, it's thousands of jobs that are at risk the more they ratchet up their rhetoric.
You could stop that
The right honourable gentleman was saying, what would I say to workers at Ellesmere Port? I'll tell him what I'd say to workers at Ellesmere Port. I and the vast majority of Conservative members in this House voted to protect their jobs. The Labour Party whipped 3 times against a deal. The Labour Party whipped 3 times for no deal. The threat to those Ellesmere Port jobs is from the Labour Party.
Mr. Speaker,
on! You're very overexcitable. Calm yourself. Jeremy Corbyn.
This party is about protecting jobs and living standards in this country, not crashing out without a deal. And with tariffs up to 40% on some basic foodstuffs, can the Prime Minister set out exactly what impact no deal would have on food prices and on the farming industry in this country?
Right honourable gentleman claims that the Labour Party stands up for protecting jobs and living standards. It has not only voted 3 times for no deal, therefore putting jobs under threat, it has also consistently, on a number of occasions, it has voted against the very tax cuts that help people to maintain their living standards. We'll take no lectures from the Labour Party on protecting people's jobs and living standards.
As I recall it, Mr. Speaker, it was this party that put a motion forward to take no deal off the table. The managing director of Birdseye says no deal would add 20% to some foodstuffs instantaneously, and that the NFU say no deal would be very damaging to British farming. Both of the candidates that succeed her have claimed they will renegotiate the backstop. So can she confirm that Section 12 of the EU Council decision to extend Article 50 ruled out reopening the withdrawal agreement and therefore the backstop?
I don't think I need to tell the right honourable gentleman what was in the Council conclusions. Those are clear, and I've made those clear in this, at this dispatch box in this House. But the right honourable gentleman stands up and says it was the Labour Party that put a motion to abandon no deal, to take it off the table, through into this House. The trouble is, when it came to the votes that mattered, when it came to the votes that would actually have an impact on stopping no deal, the Labour Party whipped against them. Absolutely typical of the right honourable gentleman, all mouth and trousers.
We made it very clear, Mr. Speaker, what the danger of no deal is, and we will do everything to prevent a no deal exit because we know the damage it will do to jobs and living standards in this country. Mr. Speaker, this government has comprehensively failed on Brexit. Jobs at risk, inward investment has fallen off a cliff, and manufacturing at a 6-year low. No deal threatens to crash the economy. The government itself says no deal would cut growth by 10%. Yet we have 2 leadership candidates who are threatening no deal and indeed competing with each other on the rhetoric of no deal. This government, Mr. Speaker, is now an irrelevance. The two candidates to succeed her have only got fantasy plans. Since she and her successors have no answers, doesn't the Prime Minister accept the best thing to do would be to go back to the people and let them decide which way we go?
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, I've made the point now, I think in answer to 5 of his questions, that if you want to ensure that this country leaves the European Union with a deal, you have to vote for a deal, which is what he and his colleagues have consistently refused to do. But there's another question for the Labour Party on this. With all this talk about no deal, the question really is, where does the Labour Party stand on Brexit? The Shadow Brexit Secretary doesn't support Brexit. The Shadow Foreign Secretary doesn't support Brexit. The Shadow Chancellor doesn't support Brexit. The Labour Deputy Leader doesn't support Brexit. Labour want to block Brexit, and that would be a betrayal of the many by the few.